that he could make it an issue. It became an issue then. It wasn't an issue when it started. To abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them, not anybody else, them, the people who choose to have a new government, as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That's the Declaration of Independence. That's what that flag stands for. They said, we got us a new flag, not because we disagree with that flag, but because you people who profess to believe in that flag don't believe in that flag. You've changed what that flag stands for. You have corrupted it, just like many have corrupted this flag today. You are not standing for true freedom anymore. You are taking this country in the wrong direction, and we want to get back to what we had to start with. That's the whole thing right there. So it was a good cause. Think of the good cause for which it flew. You don't have to think of anything else. You can't remember anything else about the Confederate flag. Just remember one thing. The people who flew that flag said, what the northern states are doing is not right. And we're not going along with it. We're going to get back to their... I mean, tell me this. How come one-third of the West Point graduates signed out of the Union to fight for the southern states? Isn't that something? I mean, you say, well, the Civil War is just a bunch of country hicks. West Point graduates are not country hicks. Just a bunch of hicks out there in the woods. They don't know anything. They're unlearned. They don't understand the law. They don't realize that they were in the wrong. One-third of the West Point graduates said, we're for the South. Those are educated men who knew the law, knew the Constitution, said, we're for the South. Robert E. Lee said, I'm for the South. Said, I'm not for everything that goes on in the South, but bless God, I'm not fighting against my homeland and for what we stood for. And he was in the Union Army. He resigned. Said, I'm staying for my state of Virginia. I'm staying home and defending my land. Any moral person would. Any right person would. I read of a case the other day where they had numerous people in the Civil War that were from other nations that came here and enlisted on both sides, actually. And one of them enlisted on the Union side, and after just a short time went by there, he ran away, ran to the South. They said, where are you going? You afraid to fight? He said, no, I'm not afraid to fight. I just want to fight for the right cause. He just left the North and came down here to fight. Amen. Think of the good cause for which it flew. Number two, you see the Confederate flag? Think of the brave men. Think of the brave men who fought for it. Think of them. Think of those fellas. The many brave, I can't, give you just many cases. It'll be all day. We'll just try to tell all those. But you get to reading a little bit. You don't have to read very long at all to find bravery. Just every time you turn a page in the Civil War, somebody with an act of bravery. You say, why was they so brave and so courageous? Why did they just put their life on the line so much? I mean, why do that? Because the Civil War it was not a war fought in Iraq or Iran. It's not a war where Americans went some other place. It was a war where Southerners were fighting oftentimes right in their own neighborhoods, right in their own areas. I read of a case of the day where one general, a battle was going on. His home was like, he could see his house where he was raised up at as a boy. Just right in the foreground or the background, however positioned there, right there. Well, if somebody's trying to take over your family farm and take over your land and take over the way you do things and trying to burn your cotton and trying to burn your barns and take your family members and ship them off to different places, wouldn't you fight? Wouldn't you stand up and fight? And that produced brave men who honestly said, truly, not just because they were great soldiers, but they were just great men. They said, I'd rather die than give up my land. I was raised here. I'd do that. If that bunch come in right now and said, we're going to take over Tennessee, and we're going to make Tennessee just like liberal California. I said, where's my gun? You're not going to do that. No, you have to take me down in the process. You won't do it with me living. I would do that. I'm just that way. I mean, you love your land, you love your way of life. Look, if you don't, go find some place you do love. Why live somewhere if you don't like the way it is? I can imagine that. And I don't think God put somebody there like that. I hear these missionaries talking about they developed a love for the country they're in. They go there. I love that. They go there and they develop a love for the people, a love for the culture. And we can't hardly, hear Linton Smith talking about China and all the weird things they eat over there. We can't get that, But he gets it because that's where God put him. See? And he's learned to love those people. He can't wait to get back. You've heard missionaries, I can't wait to get back to my home. This is your home, not anymore. God's given me a new home. See, that's where he likes it. Well, we had one just a while back, gonna raise his kids in Greece. Remember that thing? I thought, why? That's his home. That's where God put him. Nothing wrong with loving your home. Nothing wrong with defending your home. Nothing wrong with being brave and standing up for your home. Tony told me a case of the day where he had read or heard, I guess he'd read this, that Stonewall Jackson was actually sitting on his particular soldiers at that moment were not actually engaged in battle. It was kind of a temporary timeout or something. And he was actually sitting on a stump reading his Bible. Is that what you told me? Sitting there reading a book, just reading a book about the Bible, sitting there. Bullets were just flying this way and that way, coming and going for different things. And somebody said something to him about, man, you're going to get shot out there. You're going to get shot. And he made some comment to the effect, well, I'll be here until God's ready for me to go, and and until then, I'll be safe. And if how do you say it? I'm not useful. I'm not useful if. Remember how that went? I've been went blank. He said, as long as I'm useful, God's going to protect me, something like that. If I'm not useful, God doesn't need me anyway. Who needs me anyway? Something like that. So he's just sitting there not worrying about it, just trusting God. Right? And the bullets flying everywhere. Man, I read that thing other day, and I bought a picture about it. Man, I got so inspired, I went and bought me a picture about it. At Bedford Forest, his escape from Fort Donelson. They were 15,000 Union soldiers surrounding that place, and then basically he was told by higher command that he was going to have to surrender. We have no way out of this one. I mean, you fellas have fought a good fight and everything, but we're in this one. We can't get out. We're just going to have to give up and surrender. If we don't, we're going to be slaughtered, mowed to the ground. I got to be honest, I'd have probably looked the situation over and said, I guess a wise man says it's time to quit when it's time to quit, not Forrest. You know what he did? He said, I didn't come here to surrender. I thought the next line was going to say he's going to fight to the death. He didn't say I come here to be a fool either. He said, I didn't come here to surrender. And he picked out a riverbed, frozen over, ice and snow, water, cold. I think it was nighttime. Got all these men that wanted to go. Just let them volunteer. You don't have to go, but I'm going to get out of here or I'm going to die trying. He said, his last command was, if you're going, follow me. And he took a torch on his horse and began out through that thing and escaped and got out and went on to fight. That's brave. He could have just stayed. I mean, he could have froze to death. He could have gotten slaughtered in the attempt, because you don't have to hold your fire when somebody's trying to escape. You can mow them down. He got accused for massacring all those people at Fort Pillow. They'd never surrendered. You can shoot the enemy when they haven't surrendered. They kept saying, well, we surrendered. No, you didn't. You didn't put up a white flag. You kept running. And if you'd got a good position, you'd have fired on us again, so we mowed you down. And they say he slaughtered the men at Fort Pillow. He did not. He did not. But he didn't surrender himself. I think of those kind of fellows. Man, I get inspired reading about those guys and stuff they do. I think of the guy that I quoted you a while back, that slave, a slave of all people, enlisting in the Confederate Army and then getting up 25 years after the war and standing before a House of Representatives and bragging about the great Southern cause and how he fought all those years, and he would still be there fighting in the same color as his master if the war would have continued. That's brave. I mean, that's brave just to even get up and say something like that after all that stuff went on. But there's a lot of brave men in the Civil War. I see that flag, I think of the men who fought for it. I think of the men. Those flags represent, those stars represent states. Represent all the different states within that thing, and each one of those represents your state. Nathan Bedford Forrest fought in your state. See, you got many men from your state that went and fought, and men from right around here. You know the Civil War took place all over this area we're in. I just read the campaigns of Forrest. There were I bet you there's probably 10 or 15 pages in that book scattered that deals with Union City, Tennessee, the Obion River, Jackson, Bolivar, see, places around Fort Pillow, Ripley, places around Columbus, see, I think Paducah, places around here that we go to all the time, see. People went and fought. Brave men went and fought. Think of them. And I think of the fact that you would fight too. You'd be brave and fight too if you had to. Number 3, you see the Confederate flag. Think of the 13 original colonies. I don't think that's an accident. You say, now, James, those 13 stars don't represent the 13 colonies. Yeah, I understand that. I know what the 13 stars represent. I understand. Technically, they represent 11 southern states and then 2 more that got added later. I understand that. I understand that. But the fact is, there are 13 stars on that flag, And there were 13 stars on that flag originally. 13 colonies, right, when this nation got its independence. That's why I tell you, this flag and this flag have a lot more in common than you realize. This flag was for the cause of freedom and independence. This flag had 13 stars originally for the cause of freedom. You say 13 rebellion. Yes, but some things need to be rebelled against, right? Wouldn't you rebel against some things? Well, sometimes rebellion is good. Not every 13 in the Bible is a bad 13. A certain percentage of them are pretty good. That flag right there, the American flag, had 13 stars, and it stood for a free people rebelling against an oppressive government. This flag had 13 stars, and it represented a free people rebelling against an oppressive government. Think of that. You see those 13 stars. Let that make your mind drift back to 1776 and what they fought for. Very similar situation. I'll get it out in a minute. The New York Tribune, December 17th, 1860, said this. 1860 now. If tyranny and despotism justified the revolution of 1776, that's this flag, then why do we not see? Then we do not see why it would not justify the secession of 5 million of Southerners from the Federal Union in 1861. They said when we take time to look at the fact and look at what's going on, if those folks in 1776 had a right to get their independence from King George, then bless God, these people in the South have a right to do the same thing today. And both of them had 13 stars. Nothing else, just let those stars remind you of that. You can't remember all the states that were involved. Just remember there's 13 of them, just like there were 13 colonies. That ought to click. That ought to make you say, remember that thing. Think of that. Think of the 13 original colonies and how this nation got founded, and the original flag, and even now you still got 13 right here. Don't forget that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.